Joe 200, what's up? Hey, it's me, John Walsh, and today is Wednesday, okay? It is the 26th of January, and I should have done this lecture 3 days ago on the 23rd on Sunday, but you know what I did? I totally dropped the ball. All right, so that's the way it goes. But in honor of basketball, let's take a second and pause and think about today is sadly it's the second anniversary of the day that Kobe Bryant died. I remember I was teaching in the auditorium and people were crying. It was a really horrible day because we had such a great connection to such an amazing person in our community. Alrighty. So yeah, on the 23rd, I was just like you guys. I was in this frenzy. My son is a junior at USC. He had been living at home. We had to get him back up to SC. He lives right across the street from Target over there at Hoover House. And yeah, and it just I thought I did it, and I didn't. Okay, so but here we are. This is actually not a bad week. All right, so don't worry about this. And if we've caused any problems, you just contact Julia. Problem fixed. Okay, a lot of you guys are new to the class. The last day to add is Friday. All right, so this is the drill. Okay, I won't be late again. Okay, so every week we get have me doing something like this where I'm giving kind of an overview what it is you need to have in terms of take home for this week in the class. All right, so and we'll be giving you updates. If you are new to the class, you go to the how-to folder right there, okay? And you scroll down, and there's a lot of how-to stuff right here. Here's how to get an A, okay? So that's key. How to use turned in, how to avoid plagiarism, how to use the discussion boards, and right here, it's what to do if you just added 200, okay? We have Blackboard help, on and on. Just kind of scroll through here and familiarize yourself. This is how you look at old information, etc. Okay, cool. The other thing that you should be doing if you are new to the class, I'll go back to the announcement page, is we communicate via email, not text, okay? So check your email all the time, and anything that we email to you, boom, is right here chronologically going backwards in time in the class, okay? So, if you're new to the class, then go ahead and check all this information out right here, okay? So this is how it all started, and yeah, all right. So this was like, hey, look at that, things are getting better, and slowly they are getting better. All right, cool. So every week, what you do, sometime during the week, get it done by Sunday evening at 12 midnight. You come in here and you do the weekly assignments. We will have papers coming up. We'll give you a bunch of how-tos on that, so don't worry about that. Two-page paper, about three, actually, with figures and stuff like that. Three, and then the final paper, which is the bomb, where you get to interview your parents or grandparents or friends or something like that, okay? And we'll set you up about the midterms too. All right, so let's get right into it here. All right, so the weekly assignments. So those of you guys that are new, you go in here, for example, you click right here. This is the video, so you listen to me. This is the how-to, get an A, and then this was the video that concerned the content and the topics of this first week, and it was really looking at, why population aging matters, okay? You then follow the instructions right here. We want you to read half the article, and basically what you're supposed to do every step of the way is you'll open a reading quiz, okay? And I'm going to show you that in a second, all right? And then you are going to have a discussion that is related. Now this discussion was a, hey, what's going on? And there's my dog, Bella. Okay, cool. All right, so let's go back here. So it's going to go backwards in my browser. And so I'm going to go to this week's assignment right here. Boom. Okay. So what you'll see is, hey, there's no video because the video I'm making right here and now is going to go right in here. We're going to look at, because we've talked about implications of aging, age stratification. So, the implication for globally older people, but also people in the middle and people that are really young. Okay. We've looked at this concept of being a dependent, and this happens, at the family level. So maybe you have kids, you have your parents and grandparents. You can see how that all works out, okay? Or your parents have you, okay? They're still you are still dependent on them financially for support, also emotionally in terms of growth, okay? and then they have their parents. So there's this whole kind of sociological framework and the implications, so people need help, okay? Um, we're in a culture right now where there are most of the westernized and more modern societies are having fewer and fewer children, and that means the weight and the burden of caring for older people, that people are living longer because of science and technology. um, that burden is put on fewer shoulders, so to speak. Okay, and it is a big financial and sociological burden. So that's what that was all about. Now we're launching into kind of an analysis of the U.S. and not looking at the burden side, but just kind of the framework. Okay, where are we at, and then how do people that study populations categorize? Okay, so one of the best, most amazing places, think tanks for looking at the impact of aging is the Pew Research Center. And so we're gonna take a look at a couple of their articles, and for your own purposes, check out Pew because they're amazing. Okay, now again, here's the information right here. Okay, and what I would do if I was you, I would go ahead and open my quiz. Okay, I would hit begin. All right. And then I would just basically in a separate browser, I would go ahead and go in and open the class again. Okay, here we are back in again. I would go into the week. All right, and we're going back into week 3. All right, and we're back in. Okay, the reason I'm doing this is I have the quiz open now. Okay, and as I'm familiarizing myself with the information from the videos and the readings, I can go ahead and answer the questions. Okay, so we're going to look at how do today's millennials as young adults compare to previous generations with respect to education. So that's got to be in what we're doing. Okay. And you just address this right here, okay? Which 2016, which generation voted at a higher rate? Okay, so we're going to look at that. Okay, down here, why are babies no longer the biggest generation in the workforce? Okay, all right. And we have all these issues right here that look pretty sensible. Okay, and down here, okay. All right, so it's a kind of a historical framework, and this right here kind of talks about different aspects of what you've been growing up with and how that really frames your thought processes, okay, and really frames who you are. All right, so that's the example. So let's go back to the class then. All right, so this is real quick. Now, what we always do for you guys that are new to the class is we provide the link just because the link is fun and it's more interactive, okay? Sometimes links bust, and so then we always have a PDF file backup where we've downloaded the necessary information, all right? So that's what this is. This is a backup of the actual link. So I'm gonna go right into the link right here. Okay, so right here, we got to define who's who. What generation are you guys? Okay, and it just kind of goes through the surveys. I mean, it is comical to think about it, but we had to figure out what to call you guys. Were you guys the post millennials, the I generation, and this is how it was referred to politically, how it was referred to in the media, and ultimately, if you are, a guru of information and data, you're going to sift through it and say, okay, guess what? We can stop calling you guys I generation post millennials because you guys are Gen Z. And that's what this is just showing you in terms of searches. Okay, so we did the back end on the internet, and it is clear that we're going to call you guys Gen Z, Generation Z. And we look right here, and this is, looking at the age of the date of birth if you are part of that category. Sorry, I didn't mean to say age. All right, so if you were the silent generation, my parents, seems hard to believe, but yeah, my dad was in World War II, okay? And this is the years that they were born. For me, I was born in 1956, so I'm kind of smack dab in the middle, a bit to the right over here, in terms of the baby boomers, okay? And then if I had my act together, which I didn't, okay? Actually, I had to get my life together financially find the right woman, etc. Met Julie when I was 26 and a half, and we didn't have our first child until 13 years later because we were poor and we had to get our lives together. Okay, so so that means I didn't have a Gen X child. All right, so I had a 95 child, which is a millennial. All righty, and then we see over here my second child, and then you guys are the Gen Zs, and this is when you were born. All right, okay, cool. So there you go. So if we look at the age of these people, okay, in 2019, so you can just add a couple years now if we're looking at 2022, and you see how each of you stack up, okay? So so a lot of you guys now, so if we look at, for example, my son, okay, my oldest, he was born in 95, and he's now 26, okay? So he's smack and dab in the middle right here. All righty, what am I? Okay, I'm not a Gen Xer. I'm right here. I'm 55, so I'm on the lower end here, but actually in 2021, I'm middle of the road. All right, so that's basically what that's all about. So cool. Now we've established a game plan in terms of describing these generations when we start doing analyses. Okay, so that's what that's all about. Okay, so then. So this is, again, this is the backup PDF file for this right here, okay? So then we can go in here and look at each of these generations as we define them and see what happens sociologically. Again, this is the URL to the Pew Foundation. It's cool because it's interactive. The PDF file, of course, is a PDF file. It's not going to be interactive, okay? And so what we kind of want you to do down here is go ahead and click on these. Okay, so we can see we're gonna look at the profile, race, and ethnicity for each of the generations that we just defined in the last time. Okay, we're gonna look at their marital status, household income, on and on and on. This data was published in 2020. The data was finalized in 2017. Okay, and then we can look at, again, somebody like me, a boomer, and look at this structure when I was in my early 20s, and that's what this is when they were young. Okay, cool. All right, so that gives you a framework on how to look at it. All right, and then we just go right in here and we play around. It's pretty fun, actually, and we look at other things. So see, these are trends shaping your world. Okay, and that's what this is all about. Okay, all righty. So you go through here and you read through this, and first of all, okay, the millennials, which, you know, if I had my act together, would be my children, okay, and just by population momentum, even if if all of us just had one kid, okay, or two, it's still gonna, you know, with immigration go like that. All right, so so millennials outnumber the boomers. Plus, you know, we have attrition, okay, from age-related disease and death. Okay, awesome. All right. And then, you know, here it is right here, that one question talking about voting. Okay, so there's the answer to that question right there about, you know, in 2016, millennials formed 27% of the voting eligible population. Boomers were 31. However, turnout rates in this election, okay, were again different based on culture. Okay, so that's what that's all about. All right. All right, so this is a big one right here. We're going to look at housing, okay? Housing is, you know, a lot of you guys are Marshall majors, okay? A big part of the portfolio is going to be real estate, okay? You know, a big part of my portfolio is the home that I'm very close to owning here, that we've lived in here for 24 years, okay? So yeah, pretty amazing, okay? So so what is the housing market like for younger generations, okay? And how affordable is housing? And so, you know, we all have, I graduated from high school, I bolted, okay? I was out of here, okay? I never came back, all right? And that was, you know, I graduated high school in '74, and that was pretty typical, okay? We see here from this data pool, you see the trend is to go this way, all right? Where more and more often people are living at home longer during these formative years of getting yourself educated and also getting yourself financially set. This trend had a dramatic increase in the percentage of multi-generational households because of the pandemic, obviously. Okay, you guys were out on your own, living in apartments around the USC area, and then you all had to bolt back home. Okay, all right. So we can see this on a percentile basis here, and we see it in terms of millions here. But separate from the pandemic, it is the new reality, and we're going to see this because of kind of the generational effect in terms of housing affordability. All right. So I want you guys that are, I know we have a whole separate section of real estate development at Marshall. So we're going to start thinking about in terms of future housing and existing housing. So we can look at home modifications, construction on existing housing, and then future housing, about how to set it up so that multiple generations can live together and form what's called a family collective. Okay, now that is a little foreign to us, in the United States. Like I said, my culture, my tradition when I was growing up is I'm out of here, but other cultures all around the world, it was actually very, very common to have parents, grandparents, everybody living in the same house, because you were a lot more financially powerful to have the collective where you just collect all of your resources financially, and things like caregiving become really effortless. So parents and grandparents can watch your kids when you go to work, and then as your kids get older, and you can then do the caregiving of your grandparents as they get more frail. Awesome. All right. Here's another big trend that's happening in the US, okay? Worldwide too. People don't get married. People aren't getting married. People aren't having kids, okay? If they're having kids, they're a lot more likely to have kids without getting married, okay? It was very cultural. My parents, Mom, you met somebody, you got married. I dated 4.5 years, and then we got married. I pretty much knew that it was the right thing to do. Okay, but it's definitely a cultural trend. Okay, when we see what's happening also. Family size in the U.S. was finally starting to tick back up, a little more fertility. Okay, so there was this swing, and this is happening, worldwide. The ramification of not having kids became very real. We look at China, we look at Japan, like we showed worldwide. Nobody did to really help out. Okay, and then also, like we saw in Japan, where we had this thing, death from work, this culture of throwing everything into work. In the end, it wasn't satisfying, okay? And so there's a little bit of a swing this way. All right, to having more children, okay? There obviously is going to be problems and strife all throughout the world, okay? We saw developed versus undeveloped countries. So these undeveloped, non-westernized countries, they have a much higher fertility rate, okay? Lots and lots of children. The countries are not financially well off enough to provide jobs, to provide just kind of a sociological framework of well-being, and so people bolt, okay? People are leaving and immigrating, all right? So we look at the number of migrants worldwide, and we can just take a look and say, okay, which countries have the most problems? So this is going again for over a 7-year period. And we saw, you remember when the issues happened with Syria, separate from what was going on with Hillary Clinton, but just the sociological problems and the political problems that are happening in all these countries, and it's very difficult to live, okay? Alrighty, so yes, there's an uptick in that. Okay, we did see a downtick in terms of U.S. arrivals. There are religious composition changes that has a lot to do with our politics. Okay, very different in terms of who's coming into our country as an immigrant when you look at the Obama era, the Bush era, and looked at the Trump era. Okay, and again, it's socio-political. All right. So and then it just depends on the group. Okay, so certain groups have had shown a rise in terms of who is coming in. Okay, and I did just kind of a little hunting around here. We kind of leave this guy open right here, and so this was in 2018. Okay, the refugees coming into our country. So we can take a look. Oops, sorry. At the here it is. Okay, we take a look here at the world trends of who was in most need. We see Southern Sudan, Syria, African nations, okay, and they were in the high, in really the most neediest and in the most trouble in terms of the immigrants, okay. If we look at who was coming into our country, and we see that there was a huge rush from Congo, and you can just take your pick and look at the country. And obviously this year, if we were to look at it, we'd have a big burst in Afghanistan. Okay, very, very interesting. And the other thing that I think I looked at here, kind of interesting here in terms of where they settled, and it was interesting, at least in 2018, that Texas was numero uno. So this is kind of a cool article. You can see the URL up here if you're interested in taking a look at it, and it just kind of looks at the U.S. fact sheet of U.S. refugee settlement in 2020. All right, cool. All right, it says the Trump effect on in legal immigration levels, and this goes through lots and lots and lots and lots of different data. We don't have time to go through it, but if you're interested and you want to study this, you can take a look here, and you can see that certain types of visas just plummeted. When we had this transition in our political arena. The other thing that I thought was most noteworthy, these are all the different types of visas, but we see right here that we looked at student visas, okay, and how again they came, really started during the Obama era, and the student visas have plummeted in terms of all these countries. Cool. All right. So just kind of a wow, what's going on kind of thing, all right? Don't forget to go back to your quiz, guys. Very cool. All right, so that's it in terms of the trends, okay? The last thing we want to do is look at the impact, okay? So that's this one right here, okay? I don't think I got down to that one. Let me make sure I'm in the right spot here. All right, yes, right, we're gonna go down. No, it's the next one, okay. It's the next one. All right, so we scroll down here, and here it is. So we'll look at this interactive link that happens in this Pew Foundation. It's kind of cool because it kind of lays out on a generational basis what the lay of the land was in terms of really socially important things like marital status, male education, female education, and we break it down based again on those generational groups. Okay, so we come back over here. We can look at our generational groups. Okay, here it is right here. Okay, and then we can go back over here and take a look. Okay, so in 2017. We see that the majority of the millennials, okay, Gen Xers, boomers, okay, we don't have the Gen Zs, sorry guys, but that's all right. But you can see the lay of the land, that there's more and more cultural diversity as you get to younger and younger generations, okay? All right, so that's race and it. What about marital status, okay? Alrighty. Now it may seem surprising. Wow, there's fewer married people. Okay, but that's because you see down here that a lot are widowed. Okay, the millennials. Okay, never married. Dude, why not? Let's see how old you guys are. All right. You're as a millennial, you're like in your early 40s now, and seriously, you're just not getting married. Okay, so that's what we're seeing right there. Okay. Similar trend's going to happen with you guys, okay? Alrighty, Gen Xers, so we can just go across the board, okay? We can look at something like female education, okay? This is in 2017, okay? So we're always going to be looking at, who is left behind in these older generations, okay? When they were younger, okay, you see it doesn't change much here. You see that you only see this transition because you can remember that it shows you a shift in who's left behind. Let's go back to race and how about race and ethnicity? No, marital status. Marital status. How's that? Okay, so we can watch down here when they were younger. Boom. Okay, a lot of people were married. Okay, and then what happens in 2017 is a lot get widowed. Okay, so that's kind of the way. And so you just wrap your head around what's going on here. All right. Obviously, when they were younger, if we look at the millennials, so this is only like a 5-year transition right here, so it's no big deal. Okay, boom, boom. Okay, how about female labor force? I'm gonna find that to be interesting. All right, we go in here. All right, so we see that we look at how it's put out, the civilian employed. So you're working at Starbucks, okay, whatever it is. You're working at some private corporation. All right, we have armed forces, we have unemployment. Okay, again, this was in 2017. People are just not in the labor force. Okay, all right, we see that down here, 92%, okay, are not in the labor force. Why? Because you're looking at retirement. Okay, retirement and the void is being filled by Gen Xers, millennials, and now you guys, Gen Zers. How about when we were younger? Okay, female labor force. Again, well, let's look at the female labor force when we were younger. Okay, obviously it was just a couple of years ago, so there's no transition from millennials and Gen Xers. Okay, it's about the same. Okay, but what's interesting is, and now so basically you're stacking these guys up, all looking at the same age group. Okay. Um, and you see that women were not employed as much back here for the silent generation. My mom's generation, okay, she raised us and then she became employed. Boomers, okay, so that's the way that all works. Veteran status, okay, when they were younger. Let's take a look at that, okay. Alrighty, so you see, obviously my dad and all his generation, a majority of them did go into the service, okay. Um, and then just tapered off, okay, and there, boom, okay, so they're always going to be a veteran, okay, and so you see there's no change here. How about, do you live in the city or do you live out in the country? All right, let's check that out, okay. The metro status, okay. 2017, okay, so we see a majority of people here are living out in the city. How about when everybody was younger? Let's take a look there. And you see there's a transition, this urbanization. So this is kind of fun way of looking at things. Okay, so this stacks things up right here, okay? We're looking at, as we can see right here, educational status, okay? And we look at men and women, and we go across the generations, okay? All right, you guys are not in here yet. You're Gen Zers. You are being educated, okay? But we can see right here that there is overall increase in people going on and becoming more educated, going to college, okay, compared to previous generations, all right? And we can see that the biggest transition, the biggest change was in females actually becoming college educated, okay? Okay, so we go through this, okay? So again, it just talks about women and having a bachelor's degree, so the big transition right there, okay? Women are more likely to be working, okay? Remember this whole thing right here, all right, millennials and you guys, okay? Gen Xers, Gen Zers, nobody's getting married anymore, okay? And that's what that's about, and that causes big changes, okay? Yeah, we just go through all the rest of this, okay? Like I said, the urbanization of America, and we saw this, in terms of my wife's family. They had a really beautiful family farm for almost 200 years in southern Illinois. So you'd fly into St. Louis to get to it in Missouri, and you'd go out there. And they had 4 children, okay, and grandpa, ran the farm, and all the kids helped run the farm. The kids got old enough, they all went to college, they all moved to cities, and then when grandpa died, that farm that was in the family for almost 200 years was sold. All right, and that's it goes from family-run farms to corporate farms, so it's really difficult to live out there in very rural areas. Okay, so that's what that's all about. Very cool assignment, very cool. Gives you perspective, all right? So then what we want you to do is just to, again, wrap your head around this generational kind of contract of who does what at what time during society, who's helping either out in terms of like this family collective, okay? And so this is talking about everybody living longer and having to live together, okay? And again, the one thing that I kind of want you to think about is again, this is looking through 2019, okay? And it's pretty tragic we look at these Gen Xers, and so these guys are late 30s. These are mid 40s. 25% home ownership. That's really, really, really difficult on you guys. Okay, we see going from 1990 to 2019. This is my group. Home ownership was at 30% there, so exceeded what was going on here and has far exceeded it here. Okay. All right, so that's got a big, big impact on your portfolio and your financial well-being. Okay, so we can look at these trends of why is this going on. First of all, this was an article that that came out in I think it was 2020. What I do have is we have a Word file that combines all this, okay? But it looks at the transitions, okay? So that goes from this is the Washington Post article right here. So we can go like this here. You'll see it's a Word file. Okay, open up, boom. Awesome. Okay. So this for those of you that want to look in these articles but don't have a subscription, this kind of just plots everything else out here right here. Okay. So we can see this was, like I said, this was a 2020 article looking at data. Okay. That was gathered through 2019. Okay. We had the Great Recession, but we see that housing does this and just continues up and up and up and up and up in terms of costs. The difficult thing for each generation, the benchmark in terms of lending institutions is, in terms of giving you a loan to buy a home, a loan to have a mortgage, okay? The absolute ceiling is the cost of your home purchase should be no more than 3 times what your salary is. Okay, so you're coming out of the blocks, you're feeling good about yourself, you're making $300,000. I mean, making $100,000 a year, maybe even $150,000 a year, and you're still on the low end over here. And sadly, prices have continued to skyrocket. Okay, so this goes right here, goes to changes that have happened more recently. And what I can do here is I got to go back to these are just some friends that I'm thinking about. All right, cool. Back over here. Okay, and we're going to scroll down here, and this was in 2021. And remember, Orange County, the median home price was $550,000, and just in 2 years' time, you see it skyrocket to $895. All right. A crazy ratcheting up of the cost, and you can look at your community and see how much housing costs. So $900,000 for me to be able to afford that, I need to be making between $200,000 and $250,000 a year, maybe closer to actually $250,000 to $300,000 a year. So that's and this is for just the average house in that community. So that's a huge issue. Okay, so this particular article, I just want you to play with this, but I do want you to use this, guys, in terms of, this is a huge study done by Harvard, and we again we provide the PDF file. It's right in here. You can search around as well through this. There's some great graphics looking at housing affordability. And this is something that you can do someday in terms of a business major. If your edge is real estate development, maybe you're a venture capitalist, okay, in terms of investing in it could be doing individual homes or in terms of home building. It's all kind of wrapped around that about predictions, okay, and where the housing situation is. Sadly, okay, when you look at, so you can go in here, you look at the cost burden, okay, so if you barely squeezed into your mortgage and then now you're in retirement and you can't afford it, there's a good chance you're going to lose your home, okay. Rents, I don't have to tell you, I'm preaching to the choir, at an all-time high, okay. Retirement housing just goes up and up and up and up. Okay, and that's what that's showing right there in that graphic. And then sadly, right over here, because of our culture, we're looking at the number of older adults that are projected to be living alone. Okay, again, as a function of age, it goes up and up and up. Okay, so we can see right here, this is 2018, 2020, and then 2038 in gold. So this is a big deal that you guys are going to be dealing with. So we want you guys to come up with this kind of plan in your discussion. All right, about family collectives. I really think working things out where either there's going to be a multi-generational homes, okay, as a solution, or okay, so for those of you that are Marshall majors and maybe you're going to be going to law school, Gould, and you're doing estate planning, then working with the older generations in terms of your parents, your grandparents, being able to provide the financial resources, okay, through this generational agreement to help you buy into the housing market. Okay, and this is a big part of estate planning. So these are all kind of, with respect to that, you can have an extra added layer to the onion of government, okay, and incentives, okay. Yeah, if I want to fund my kids' housing, okay, maybe I should be given a little bit of a tax break to do that. These kinds of things. I can give a certain amount of gifts, okay, annually, and I'm going to talk about that later on. That is tax-free to my children. But we really need to be able to figure out a way to boost your guys' entry into the housing market. Okay, cool. All right, guys. Well, I apologize, Peace, for being late to the draw here, but it's all good. Take care.